hit the music as we keep trying to work on the live feed. There you go. We're on. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's 8 o'clock on Thursday night, and that can only mean one thing. It's time for the 47th installment of the Age Out Angels Radio Hour. My name is Greg Rapport. I am the founder and executive director of Age Out Angels. We are a 501c3 nonprofit corporation that provides one-to-one mentors for youth for the purpose of coordinating the care and services that they need to survive and avoid some of the horrible pitfalls that they may face. This program is brought to you every week at this same time, courtesy of Doc G, William Saunders, Ruben Rodriguez, and all the fine people here at Hamilton Radio who allow us to use this airtime. Doc G is on the big board tonight, along with Robin. As always, it's great to see you both. And thank you so much at home for tuning in. We have big stories and an extremely knowledgeable and passionate guest tonight on the radio hour, so stay with us for the whole hour tonight if you can. And please remember all the other fine programs here at www.hamiltonradio.net. In fact, sign up, and then you'll receive text alerts when shows are being broadcast and links that make it one simple click away. I don't know if people realize this or not, but there are actually 3 channels here at Hamilton Radio. If you listen to Channel 1, which is what I do all day, you will hear the most eclectic mix of music that you can hear anywhere. There is no radio station that I'm aware of that broadcasts the way this one does. And what I find myself doing like all day is wondering, what are they going to do next? What's the next song going to be? And it's wonderful. So Channel 2 is like all music. Is it 24 hours a day, Doc? It runs 24 hours a day. Channel 2 is where most of the live shows can be heard. The third channel is the VIP channel. And that channel is for like big stores to pipe in music. That's what it's for. It's for businesses so that you can hear music all day without all the interruptions and breaks and commercials and things like that. It's absolutely fantastic, and it's free. You do not have to pay for it. So I suggest that everyone goes to www.hamiltonradio.net and signs up so that you can get alerts for what's happening throughout the day. My guest tonight is Sheila Addison, and she is the director of the Homefront Family Preservation Center. Homefront is on a mission to end homelessness in central New Jersey, and they have an interesting approach to achieving that, so stay with us throughout what is going to be a substantive hour of child welfare radio tonight. The point is that there are many individuals, organizations, and community groups like Homefront, like Age Out Angels, even if they're already well known. And believe me, Homefront is a staple in the Trenton area. But still, they benefit from being known and understood by a wider audience. And I'm very fortunate to have this platform. Happy to help other people and organizations promote worthy endeavors. Because you never know, someone who's listening who hears about Homefront may say, you know, I want to lend my support to their effort. Or maybe I need their help. Or maybe I want to start something like what they do in my area. So it's all good. Happy to share the mic with good people doing good things, because the ultimate beneficiaries are the children. And it just doesn't get any better than that. Following up on a story we started last week. A report from the Ann E. Casey Foundation titled Youth in Foster Care Need Family, Not Just Skills for Independence sheds light on an interesting topic. First of all, let me ask you a question, and if you happen to be listening on Facebook tonight and you can write into my comments field, you might want to vote on this. In 1998, there were 17,310 children who aged out of foster care every year. 17,310 in 1998. Do you think that number is more or less today? This is 20 years later. We've been working on this for 20 years. People have been working very hard to reduce that number for 20 years. Do you think 20 years later the number is more or less than 17,310 per year? And I'll have the answer for you in just a minute. The article goes on to say a growing number of older youth are exiting foster care without legal permanent connections to family, a reality that imperils their ability to succeed as adults. And this is according to a new report from the National Center for Youth Law. The report from the Annie Casey Foundation is called Promoting Permanency for Teens. It describes what states and child welfare agencies can do to help teens thrive upon leaving foster care. The report, which the Ann E. Casey Foundation funded, places particular emphasis on the powerful role that supportive adults can play. And this, of course, is why Age Out Angels exists. Absent such connections, young people who exit care are more likely to experience a devastating storm of academic, physical, and financial struggles. States are using a variety of strategies to address permanency for teens, some good, some not so good, according to Tracy Field, and she's the director of the Casey Foundation's Child Welfare Strategy Group. More than 20,000 young people age out of foster care each year, and I just gave you the answer, right? 20,000 is 3,000 more than 17,000. So we've been working on this problem now for 20 years, and we've reached a point where there are 3,000 more children aging out of foster care every year than there was 20 years ago, which makes you wonder what the number would have been if we hadn't been working on it. That's an increase of 18% in just 2 decades. Yet young people do better when they reunify with family or gain family through guardianship or adoption, according to research. Unless we change how we support young people, especially in their quest to be part of a loving family, they will continue to face poor outcomes when they age out of foster care. And you know, a lot of this has to do with the fact of where the money is going right now, because the money for years and years and years has been going to foster care. That's where it's been directed. They would wait until a child needed removal. When the child needed removal, they would place the child into foster care. That's where the money would go, period. Now that money is being used, or it's about to be used, especially beginning October 2019 with the Family First Prevention Act. A lot of that money is going to be moved from foster care towards the family itself, the nuclear family, to try to prevent the children from being placed in foster care. And there is a movement right now for adoption, especially adoption of older teens who are in foster care. So we'll see if those things pan out and make a difference. Promoting Permanency for Teens identifies 5 key elements of successful teen permanency policies. And these are, number 1, we need to make a greater effort to locate relatives of teens who are in care. That was something that Johanna Greason, my guest last week, touched on. And it's very, very important to find people that the child may already know, but maybe doesn't know how to get in touch with. Number 2, it's very important to have increased parental visitation with teens who are in care. That can be a logistic nightmare, especially for high-density areas. Southern California is working on a new computer system in order to make parental visitation go more smoothly. Number 3 is there should be a teen voice and representation in permanency and case planning. Number 4 is payments and services for teens and caregivers achieving permanency, so money directed towards the achievement of permanency, and efforts to locate and support teens who are missing from care. And, well, foster kids are well known for running away, and they're known for running away for a lot of reasons, and sometimes it's because the place that they're living is more dangerous than the streets. So that's something that also needs to have a greater look. The report also outlines 5 basic recommendations that states should follow to better address a young person's need for family. And these are: search for family early and often. Don't just give up. Require a robust and ongoing search for relatives and other meaningful adults. Who's that one adult? It's not always a relative. I mean, it can be a guidance counselor, but there's one. There's going to be one adult, and if you can find that person, it's worth its weight in gold. Number 2 is promote frequent family visits. Require parental visitation at least once a week, emphasizing daily visitation and contact for teens likely to reunify with the family. Number 3 is plan for permanency from the start and never stop. Require monthly permanency planning and family finding services that features input and participation from teens and their chosen representatives. Number 4 is tear down permanency barriers. If financial and service barriers to permanency exist, remove them. Number 5, search for runaways and missing teens and never give up. The report notes, and this is a quote from the report, youth who run from their foster care placement are often at extreme risk of further harm. Yet state efforts to locate and a percent of runaways varies widely. To remedy this, the National Center for Youth Law recommends requiring agencies to support ongoing, active, and documented searches for missing young people and to have dedicated staff members conduct these searches. Moving on, I want to give a big shout out to the Next Generation community leaders, the people at the Mill Hill organization who guided them through a year of learning and civic engagement, and Robert Wood Johnson for sponsoring the program. You saw these young people right here on our show 2 weeks ago, and they held their Embrace You event in Trenton to promote mental wellness, and that was last Saturday, and it was a tremendous success. A lot of very, very, very caring organizations were represented there. The entertainment was spectacular. This group made a ton of progress toward destigmatizing mental health issues. But the fight has just begun, and it's amazing that it took young people to get this conversation started. And maybe, just maybe, it's time for the adults to pick up this ball and continue the great work that the youth has started. So congratulations to everybody at Mill Hill and the Next Generation community leaders. And remember out there, there are 4 core issues that land children in foster care or that cause a child to be abused or neglected. Poverty, certainly a big one. Drug addiction, mental illness, and poor parenting skills. And poor parenting skills are frequently the result of intergenerational abuse. The people doing the parenting didn't have proper parenting themselves, not a model that they could follow. So mental health, the issue of the Embrace You Festival, was only one of those causes. And what's important is that we tackle all 4 at the same time. The children who were yanked from their parents at the border are back in the news because the judge gave the government until today to reunite them with their families. What do you think the odds are that that actually happened? That all those 2,000 were reunited with their families? I'm thinking slim to zero. Diane is out there listening to our show tonight. Hey, Diane, thank you. Diane, you wrote, I believe it's more, but... Oh, you were answering the question, are there more children who age out now than there were 20 years ago? And you are right, Diane. If you were here in front of me, I would give you Age Out Angels chapstick. Anyway, these the children who were ripped from their families at the border are supposed to be reunited. We'll have to see how that plays out. And that's really not the part of it I wanted to talk about. The part that I want to talk about, I can't stress enough, is 2 points. First, the outrage that Americans expressed at this horrific practice was totally justified. But let's remember, while we're carrying signs and walking around the State House to support 2,000 children who were separated from their families at the borders, there are 435,000 children who have been ripped from their homes and placed into foster care. Now, certainly a lot of that justifiable, but that doesn't make it easier on the children, okay? So certainly we can all find some righteous indignation in our bones to support these youth as well. And let's get out there and not let this issue die. Let's keep this issue going and keep it alive by supporting the young people who are already Americans, who are living in our cities, in our towns, and going to our schools, and not getting a fair shake. So before we get to our guest, please hit that share button or take a moment to email to your whole address book and tell the world what we're doing here and invite your friends to join this discourse. We need you to help us spread the word. And while you're doing that, let me remind you that we're here every Thursday from 8 to 9 p.m. with the Age Out Angels Radio Hour. We have a great lineup of guests coming up. Next week on August 2nd, you'll meet Irene Gray, the founder of a potentially game-changing website called Aunt Bertha. On August 9th, my guest will be Emily Marchese from Roots and Wings. On August 16th, representatives from the Progressive Center for Independent Living will be here, and you will be amazed at what they can accomplish. So be sure to tune in every week at 8 p.m. for what we consider to be our unfiltered look at the child welfare system. And ladies and gentlemen, that's what makes this program unique. If you care about our nation's youth, if you care about the child welfare system, this is where you come to hear the truth. We confront real problems. We search for real solutions. It's our hope that together we can arrive at best practices that can be applied where you live. Together, we can make the plight of children a little less traumatic and strive for positive outcomes. If you have specific questions, you can call in tonight or write them to me either in the comments field on my Facebook page or directly to me at greg@ageoutangels.org. I answer every single question personally. The call-in number tonight is 609-807-2492. If you're listening to the audio feed of this program on Hamilton Radio, I'll say it again. It's 609-807-2492. You can call in any time with your questions and comments. Please take a moment now. Hit that share button on Facebook. These children and their issues are buried so deep in the back of the public consciousness, and real people are suffering. Give everyone you know a chance to hear this program. Let's take a short break right now. Hit that share button. We'll be back in 1 minute with Sheila Addison, Director of the Homefront Family Preservation Center. Don't go away. Say hi to Stefan. Stefan is listening to us tonight from Sweden.
Hey, Stefan.
Just in case you wondered the reach of of this program. No pressure. We're international now. Hey, Stefan. Good to have you aboard. The lady sitting next to me, whose voice you just heard, is Sheila Addison. She is the director of the Homefront Family Preservation Center. Sheila, welcome to the Age Out Angels Radio Hour. It's
Thank you, Greg. Great to be here.
Glad to have you. Now, you are a person who has earned the respect for having been in this business of social working for about 25 years. Can you tell us how you started and how you evolved over time?
Well, I started about 25 years ago at a program in Paterson, New Jersey called Eva's Sheltering Program. And in fact, I know Diane. Hey, Diane.
You do?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you started at Eva's Sheltering Program.
Mm-hmm. Started at Eva's Sheltering Program.
And what is that?
It's a shelter program for single women who are in treatment for recovery, for addiction.
For substance abuse.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'll bet their business is sadly booming.
Greatly so.
Right now. Yeah. Sorry to hear it. And then you moved from there to Sanford Bates House. Was that next?
Yeah. Stayed at Eva's for about 4 years. And from there, I went on to New Jersey Association on Corrections at a program called PARTS, which was parents and their children recovering together successfully, because it was very hard for a lot of the moms to stay clean because they were worried about their children and their children being taken care of and their whereabouts. So PARTS was a program where they were able to come into recovery and bring their children with them.
And but they had previously been a part of the corrections. Yes? No, not in that one?
Not in that one. It was run by corrections, but these moms had not been in the correctional facility.
Had they been separated from their children,
They had been separated from their children, and in order to get their children back, they were given the opportunity to come into this program and bring their children with them.
It's funny how not funny, but ironic, I suppose, how it happens that a mother will have their children taken away, and then get a chance to visit them or possibly get them back. And the pressure, anxiety, coupled with that addictive personality will frequently make them sort of, not make them, but get them using again for that moment.
Well, you have many stresses, and you have to remember they're suffering through trauma, and they have many, many stresses. So a lot of times the excuses to use really weren't valid excuses. It was just the disease itself that caused that, even though they really didn't want to.
So in this program, Sanford Bates House, were you treating sort of the core issues of that disease? And
Well, Sanford Bates House was a little different. Sanford Bates House was a pre-release program for women who were coming out of prison after long prison sentences.
Okay.
It would have been very hard for them to just come back into the community, having been gone for either 10 years or more, haven't seen their children, haven't been a part of their life. So Sanford Bates House was a program where we helped them get, reunited with their children and introduce them back into the community by getting them jobs, providing them with substance abuse, mental health, and all the services they would need in order to get out and be successful.
And so multiple things were happening to them at the same time.
It was heart-wrenching to say the least, because many often fail because they were scared to come back out into the community, knowing how much the world had changed.
It's a lot, yeah. I mean, if you were gone for the last 10 years, can you imagine? I mean, all the ways that the world has changed in just the last 10 years.
And some of them had sentences 15 years, 20 years, 25 years. So I would get someone who was 70 years old, who was getting ready to be released, who had done 20 years for killing her husband because she was a victim of domestic violence.
Right.
And in New Jersey, we already know no such thing as self-defense.
Right. Oh, goodness. So you went, some of these things just leave you speechless. And if you're listening to this at home, I'll bet you're speechless right now, because I know I am. So you came from there to Trenton.
Yep.
Right.
Left Sanford Bates House. Had the pleasure of working with my mentor, Ms. Maureen Sumners, and from there she opened up a program in Trenton, which was called Family Preservation House, which was a family shelter for women and children.
Whoa, Diane just wrote that she does know you, and then she wrote, she helped save my life. Are you going to cry? I know. I think I am. Damn. Diane, thank you so much for listening to the program. We love you out there. Thank you. Okay, so you're back here and you open Family Preservation House. Right?
Back here, we opened Family Preservation House.
And what were the rules for that? What was the population for that?
The population for that was 18 and older, single with children. That was it. That was the only criteria. There were other underlying issues, but to be a part of the program, that was it, 18 and older.
So at that point it starts
and homeless, I'm sorry.
Okay.
They were homeless.
So at that point it starts to feel something like a mirror image of what the Homefront Family Preservation Center is now.
Well,
less developed,
Preservation House was a different program that I worked at. I left Family Preservation House and then went to work at Family Preservation Center a year later.
And Family Preservation Center is Homefront?
Yes.
Okay. All right, good. Oh, you can't tell the players without a scorecard sometimes. So a big part of your career was dealing with people in corrections, but substance abuse sort of ran through that thread.
Correct. From every single program or every institution that I worked at, substance abuse was a big problem.
And that's like a battle that never ends, huh?
Ongoing.
Yeah. So how much of that do you see in your work at Homefront? Like, is there a percentage you could put on it?
Well, I've been at Homefront for 14 years, and the situation doesn't change. You're dealing with folks who are homeless, folks who are living in poverty, domestic violence, substance abuse, mental health. These are ongoing issues that we have not fixed. As you said, 20 years later, there's still 20,000 kids out there that's homeless. So, what we've seen are people who are coming to us now with more trauma, repeated cycles. I've had families. I've had someone who was there with their children when they were 25, and now I have their children there with their grandchildren. So I've seen families come through. I've seen the cycle repeat itself. I've seen the cycle not been able to be broken. But oddly enough, there are success stories. And we've put together something that has helped us turn those numbers around for the numbers that we're serving over the years due to our services that we have at Homefront.
Yes, you have to. I mean, you really have to take into consideration the fact that as a country, we've let things like mental health just completely fall by the wayside. I mean, we've dumped money into the foster care system, but in general, we emptied out institutions, put people in jail, not dealt with the mental health issue at all. Certainly permitted drugs to be in this country, and incarcerated people for very lesser drug offenses, and so not done the job outside of that. So when you have success stories, that's what we have to count. Those are the wins right there, and they matter more than the overall statistics over the 20 years. I really feel that way. So tell us, is Homefront something that is just for women and children, or women and children? How exactly is the eligibility?
Homefront Family Preservation Center is single women head of household with children, single dads head of household with children, two-parent families with their children. So we are a family shelter.
I didn't know about the dads part.
Oh, yeah.
How many dads
is
do you
something
have?
new. We did not have a shelter for single dads in our community where they were able to go and get the same services that moms got. But we took care of that.
I've never heard of it anywhere.
All right.
I wonder, though. I mean,
we have single dads.
If there's anyone out there who knows of a place where single dads can go with their children, I mean, across the country or the world, Stefan, do they have that in Sweden? Let us know, because I've never heard of this before.
Right now, I have about 6 dads there with their children, and 2 dads that's there with their significant other and their children.
What about age group? What age?
18 and older.
18 and 18 till, did you say 70?
It could be.
Yeah.
Sometimes we take a few older women, and they tend to be a little bit older.
Okay. All right. So I just want to give the listeners out there a kind of an overview of Homefront, because there are 2 sort of distinctly different, what should we call it, departments? Locations?
There are about 10 to 12 different departments.
Okay. Then let's start with the 2 locations.
Okay.
Okay.
Our main office is located at 1880 Princeton Avenue in Lawrence Township. And our family campus is located at 101 Celia Way in Ewing, New Jersey.
Okay. And what about this Eggers Crossing Road across from
Eggers Crossing
the
Road
Armory?
Is our Lawrence Community Center.
Community Center.
On
Right.
Eggers Crossing Road.
Okay. So now, what happens at the Lawrenceville?
In Lawrence, that's our administrative offices.
Okay.
However, there are at least there's hundreds of people through there every day. At the Lawrenceville office, the community is able to go there for food bags. They're able to go there for intensive case management. They are able to get furniture. They are able to get help with back rent and security. They are able to get help with permanent housing. The community can go there and get book bags, Christmas wish lists, Thanksgiving baskets. A whole array of services happens outside of that office, inside that office, every day on a daily basis.
And in order to go there and take advantage of those services, do you have to be registered with social services to do that?
Not at all. You just come in the door and tell us why you're here.
And you'll get service.
And you'll be able to get services, yes.
Absolutely amazing. And that's not where you work, correct?
I work out at that office as well, but my main location is at the Ewing location.
Ewing location, because that's where the people are housed.
Well, we have folks who come through the 1880 office who are also housed. We are able to provide them with, we have HIV housing, we have low-income housing, we have supportive services housing, we participate in rapid rehousing. There are many housing programs that Homefront operate and run, and we have over 120 units of affordable permanent housing as well.
Absolutely fantastic. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take a short break for 1 minute, okay? When we come back, we're going to talk about what intake is like and what it would be like if you need to take advantage of these services, what your day would be like and your life would be like. And we'll be back in 1 minute with more with Sheila Addison. Don't go away. And we are back. Before we go further, I do need to thank all the people who made donations to Age Out Angels this week. We thank you so very much for your generosity. And by the way, if you have an employee giving fund or matching gifts foundation associated with your place of work, we would certainly appreciate your contacting us and telling us how we can participate in that. Private message me on Facebook or email to greg@ageoutangels.org. And I want to remind everyone, the same way I do every week, that you can donate to Age Out Angels every time you make a purchase from Amazon without spending 1 penny more. All you have to do is designate Age Out Angels to be your Amazon Smile designee. And a portion of the money that you spend on Amazon will go to Age Out Angels without it costing you 1 dime. I can make it easy for you to designate Age Out Angels as your Amazon Smile recipient. All you have to do is contact me either via Facebook or at greg@ageoutangels.org, and I will send you a link that will take you directly to our designation. Sheila, are you guys also on Amazon Smile?
Not sure. Okay. We're on Amazon Smile.
Well, you might want to look for Homefront Family Preservation Center and see if they are when you make your purchase at Amazon. Okay, so let's do a hypothetical then, okay? Mm-hmm. I am a 20-year-old female with 1 child, say 15 months old. And I had an apartment, and I had a job, and my job suddenly ended, and my landlord didn't want to renew my lease anyway. So it's now Thursday, and he is giving me until tomorrow afternoon to, is this too hard?
Not at all.
I can't make you sweat, can I? He's giving me till Friday afternoon to vacate the premises. Can you help?
Okay. You come in the door.
What do we do?
At 1880, you come in the door. You asked if you could speak with a case manager. Well, no. Our very welcoming front desk staff will ask why you're there. Mm-hmm. They will do an assessment. They will figure out what it is you need, and they will contact one of the case managers in the office. We have several for different things, mm-hmm. and they'll get one of those case managers, and one of those case managers will come and meet with you, bring you in the back so you can talk privately, and you can tell them all the things that you've just said to me, and we're going to figure out the best course of action to make sure that you and your 15-month-old daughter will not be on the street tomorrow when the landlord decides to lock you out.
You try to figure out something.
We will figure out something.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. If we're not able to do it at that location, then they pick up the telephone and they call the shelter and say, look, this person may not be eligible for social services because she worked, and she may have to draw unemployment. So it depends on what the situation is. We look at the best solution for that situation, and we make phone calls and we make things happen, and we make sure that this family will have a clean place to eat, to lay their heads, to have their food, to eat their meals, to go get on unemployment, to do whatever it is she needs to do to get herself back up on her feet.
Mm. And so a placement like this might not, we don't think of as a permanent placement, do we? We think of this as a temporary.
We call our residents our guests. We don't call them clients, and we don't call them residents. We call them our guests so that they know that their stay is not permanent.
Uh-huh. Okay. So what is like the average length of stay?
Depending on how you come through our front door, the average length of stay is 60 to 90 days.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And so, all right. So now let's say I've come to live at your center in Ewing, right? And I have 2 children, 1 8 and 1 10. Okay. First of all, what's my room like? Am I sharing a room? Is it a dormitory? Do I have a room with just my kids? How does that work?
Well, your room is a beautiful room with shiny floors. You have your own bathroom. You have your own air conditioner. You have your own heating system. You've got toiletries. Come in the door. You've got deodorant, toothpaste, washcloths, towels, diapers, milk, whatever you need to make you feel comfortable that first night. You are not sharing a room with anybody else. And if you have a really large family, we give you a double room with a room in between where you have both sides of the room.
You had me at air conditioner.
So the first thing you do is you're made to feel very comfortable. It's clean, and you walk in saying, okay, very nice. So the first thing that brings a sigh of relief to the families that we work with is their room as soon as they enter their room. They enter their room, they put their belongings down. The first thing we want to do is get them something to eat. Are you hungry? When is the last time you ate? Did you eat? We get them something to eat, and once we get them something to eat, we set them down with our family care workers and our case managers to do an intake. And sometimes they're very tired, depending on where they've been for the last 3 or 4 days. And if they are, we take our basic information and we'll let them get some rest, and we'll meet with them again tomorrow. Once we meet with them again tomorrow, we're going to do a thorough assessment. We're going to do a mental health evaluation. We're going to do a urine drug screen. We're going to let the kids go to the daycare and just play while mom handles and take care of business. We're going to find out what the barriers that were, what brought you here. Is there any mental health? Is there any domestic violence? What brought you here? So we want to get as much information as we can, because as I told you, we have a very short window in order to work with these families. That's why the Homefront Family Campus has every possible single service that these families can need, all under one roof, and it's called the Homefront Family Campus. The Family Preservation Center is just a shelter, but the campus is a campus of hope, dreams. There's an education. We have a higher, a high school.
HSC?
Yeah, we have a
high school equivalency.
High school diplomas these days. You don't even get equivalencies. Okay. It's right there on site. It's called Higher Expectations. We do job training. We have computer training centers. They're able to look for jobs. They're able to get their education. We even had our first graduation this year, where we graduated over 22 graduates who participated in our program in the last year.
That's so beautiful.
So they come in thinking that they're there just to lay their head down, but what they find out is that they're there because they've been given a break to stop the vicious cycle of craziness that's been going on in their lives, and they get everything that they could possibly dream of to help get them back on track.
Right. So basically here the trade-off is they have to take advantage of those services. This is not a country club where you stay for a couple of months until you figure out that if you just go to Ohio, you can sleep on somebody's couch.
Correct.
With your 2 kids, because, that will happen also. So you have to take advantage of those services.
You have to take advantage of those services.
And I would presume to some extent you got to show some progress.
Absolutely. If you come in and you test positive, the first thing you're going to do in order to stay, you're going to have to participate in drug treatment. If you've been on medication or been diagnosed, the first thing we're going to do is have you talk to a mental health therapist or clinician. If you are a domestic violence victim, the first thing we're going to do is get you counseling. So we're going to get them stabilized. And once we get them stabilized, we're going to start to work on the barriers that brought them there and help them, move on to the next level.
Right. So to some extent, they got to drink the Kool-Aid. They have to say, okay, I'm going to go for drug counseling now, but the reason I'm going to go for drug counseling is because ultimately it's time for me to get clean.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the children, we just rally around the children because today the children come with the same trauma that their parents come with. Absolutely. Or that mom come with. Yep. Today I have 78 kids. I have 78 kids from birth to 17 years old. And we rally around those children. Our services for children begin the same time that the services for mom began. I once didn't believe that a newborn suffered trauma, but a newborn suffers trauma from as early as it being in the womb. And so we rally around the babies, from the babies all the way up. We have an on-site daycare center, Atkinson Child Development Center, where we take kids as early as 6 weeks old into our program, and we keep them up until 5. We have pre-K, and we have age to 3.5, and then they go into pre-K. We have an early Head Start program. We have a teen center. We have an after-school program where our kids are coming in and doing work. We make sure that every marking period, every parent goes to school for back to school night. We have a star student party. I have a 7-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 5-year-old. The 7-year-old is in first grade, and the 5-year-old and the 6-year-old are in pre-K. So that gives you some indication of where these kids have been. They have not been in school. Oh my,
yes, a 5-year-old and 6-year-old in pre-K.
Yeah, and yes, a 7-year-old in first grade.
Yeah.
So it gives you some kind of idea of where these kids have been and what's been going on with them. But we rally around them. If that first grader, by the end of that second week, we're going to celebrate that first grader being in, that 7-year-old being in first grade. So, we form a partnership with the teachers. The teachers all know who our kids are that are homeless. And so we work with them to start working on resiliency right away. And I'm telling you, kids are resilient. So they pick up on things fast. We have a teen zone where our teenagers can go without the parents. There, they have foosball, they have a pool table, they have ping pong, they have video games, they have music, they have TV. And we strategically place counselors in there who look like them. So that they're able to talk about those issues. Whereas if I say, come to Miss Sheila's office and talk to me, they're not going to talk to me.
Right.
But they're going to talk to Sheila that looks like she's 18 and has the same issues as I are. So this way we can get a hold on what these kids need and the traumas that they have gone through. We have a program called Joy, Hopes, and Dreams, which is not out of the Family Preservation Center, but this program takes those kids from the time they enter my shelter and keeps those kids until they get 18 or 19 years old. We have the Discovery Club, which is out of the Lawrence Community Center, where the kids are going and they discover what it is that they want. So we have so much programming built around the kids, where our kids stay with us for the rest of their lives. Pretty much. So do our families.
Clearly that's true. And by the way, Diane's been a prolific writer tonight, and she said that there's a YMCA single dads program. Now, Ys are different everywhere, Diane. So you got to qualify that. Is it the Trenton Y? Is it the Princeton Y? Is it both of them? Is it
Diane is in North Jersey.
Diane's in North Jersey.
Was one of my clients at Eva's.
Okay, all right. So you got to tell us where that is, okay, Diane?
And you want to talk about a success story? Diane came in and changed her life of substance abuse, and she now works in the field as a counselor and a worker, and so she's now, doing the same kind of work that helped save her life.
That's wonderful, Diane. Congratulations to you. But tell us where that Y is, okay? So we can call them up and find out more about their single dads
it's in Essex County
program. That's really cool. All right, so do you see what is now considered to be PTSD in the children? I'm assuming you see it in the adults, especially the adults who are victims of domestic abuse.
We see it in the adults, and how we see it in the children is we'll see children come in treating their mom, or let's say it was a domestic violence situation. You'll see children coming in, cursing and yelling and hitting their mom like dad did. So yes, that's classic PTSD.
We're talking younger.
We're talking young.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we're talking young. So we see that. We see children with special needs. We see children who are 2.5 years old and not able to talk. We see children who are 7 and don't talk at all. So we see this thing, and we really been pushing at Homefront for the need for therapists and counselors to help deal with these issues in our children. So we definitely see a lot more of it.
Yeah, and you're seeing the symptoms that you can easily identify as being that. Are you able to get school records and stuff for these kids? Is that something that you're able to get access to?
Well, if someone comes from another state or someone comes from out of the county,
it can be hard, I know.
We sit down and work with mom to help try to get those records. If she let's
knows.
say she's lost all her documentation. Let's say it was a fire. Let's say it was a domestic violence issue. So we sit down and we work with mom, and we reach out to the school system. As you know, in New Jersey, we have the McKinney grant, Vento grant, which helps get all of these services to these kids in the area. So we're partnered with the school system. We're partnered with the teachers.
So what are the criteria to move out? I'll bet it's sad when they move out. It sounds like,
Well, my favorite line is, they cry when they come in. Is like, how did I end up here? How did I let my family down? How did I live here? And then when it's time to go, it's like they're crying when they're leaving because, no, I don't want to go. Where's the support? I need the support because
Yeah.
the support has made the major difference in them being able to get on track and try and get their lives together. The criteria to moving out is, we're also partnered with Mercer County Board of Social Services. That is actually the referring agency that gives us most of our families. So they work with a housing worker in order to start looking for housing. But they must complete the program. So it's not just come here so you can sleep. It's come here and get services and get hitched to services that you can carry with you for the rest of your life, because we never let them go. We don't let them go. And once they have completed the program, well, while they're working in the program, when it gets to about the 60-day mark, they're given permission to start to go out and look for housing.
And what about work?
We have families who work. We have some men who work. We have women who work. They are able to gain employment if they come in, because we have classes all day long. But if they come in and they're working, they're able to keep their jobs.
Yeah. Now, so do you have, revisitors? Because I'm just imagining a scenario where,
as I mentioned to you, I get families back sometime. But yes, we've had people that have gone out and have become successful.
Yeah.
But they may have lost a job.
Yeah.
And come down on their luck again.
Single parent, right?
Yeah,
It can happen overnight.
It can happen to anyone. I mean, we've had a daycare provider who a lot of our kids went to, and we looked up one day, and the owner of that daycare center was one of our clients. We've had mayors who were mayors and may have had an alcohol addiction or a drug addiction, and they've been in our services. So yes, to answer your question, we do. We try not to, but we do get folks who have come back again. On any given month, I've had someone who's been there before.
Yeah, you could just imagine all of the possible scenarios where a single parent, when you have two parents, it's just, one horrible event isn't that devastating. But when you have one parent, and a point that I like to make to the people who listen to this show is, we pamper our kids way too much, way too much. I heard about a story about a young man just last week who was, being taken care of by his single mother, and she did everything. And all of a sudden, she, had some kind of a brain aneurysm or something and went into a coma. And her death was imminent, and it happened like in a finger snap. So here's this boy who is 19 years old, faced with burying his mother, right? And they have an apartment, and the apartment has rent. He had no idea where her bank accounts were, if she had insurance. She worked, but he knew nothing. He knew absolutely nothing about how to keep his family moving forward. And, it's just something that can happen to a person in a moment, in a flash of a moment. They can be in that position. You don't take care of children without their parents, right?
No, we didn't.
Right.
No,
So
we don't.
in a situation like an accident or something like that, where the parent becomes incapacitated, the children would go into the system. Right? Now, you said something to me really interesting the other day in our pre-interview, and I want to revisit it for just a moment. Because we were talking about somebody, and I said that they had a child, and I was telling you about them, and I was telling you that they were living with the man who basically raped the woman and produced that child, because that was her only way, to provide shelter. And one of the reasons that she was hesitant to go to social services is because she's worried that they'll take the child away. And you said something very interesting to me at that moment. You said, correct me if I'm wrong, but you were envisioning a scenario where having the child removed long enough for her to get herself together might not be the worst thing.
That is correct.
Right. So can you talk a little bit more about that and tell our audience exactly what you mean by that?
Sometimes the barriers that led to the child being taken away, in that particular young lady's incident, You didn't mention if she had substance abuse, but
no, she doesn't.
She doesn't have substance abuse.
No.
The only reason that her child would be taken away from her was because she did not have an address, because she had nowhere to go.
Right.
The agencies in our community are great agencies. We're going to work together to make sure that she has somewhere to go, that so she doesn't lose her child. We've had families who it was better for us to call Child Protective Services and have the children removed because we were scared, afraid of what would happen to the children if they were to remain in the custody of this mom who had absolutely no use for them. Yeah. So in those instances, we will make a call. We are mandated reporters. We will make a call if we feel that the children are in danger with the mom. And sometimes, most recently, someone who's very near and dear to me, she had a mental break, and the children were removed from her, and she's still fighting to get them back. She got the help that she needed, and a lot of times they said, well, it's just until you get better. When you get released, you'll come out and you'll get your children back. But that's not always the case. And, and she's fighting to get them back. She's back on her feet. She's back on her medication. She's doing what she needs to do. But that needed to happen in order for her to get back on track. Mm-hmm. So she is having visits with her kids. She is bonding with them. But in some instances, the kids are better off. I hate to say it, in the system, but the system has gotten much better because her kids are doing excellent. Her kids are doing well.
And danger is danger. I mean,
danger is danger.
You don't want to take children away from their mother, but danger is danger. If they're in a dangerous situation,
absolutely,
it doesn't do anyone any good to not recognize that.
Absolutely.
So with the half a minute that we have left, how can people get in touch with Homefront? How do they donate money? How do they offer their services?
Well, they can visit our website at www.homefrontnj.org. There they can find out how to donate. They can find out about our services. They can find out about our different programmings. They can find all information they need in order to, depending on what they're looking for, in order to get their needs met. So www.homefrontnj.org. That number is 609-989-9417, and the number to the Homefront Family Campus is 609-883-7500. Can I tell you a quick story of something that made me happy today?
You bet.
We currently have an opioid program, and the opioid program serves single pregnant women who were and are addicted to opiates, but they are now in treatment. I'll say Samantha came in to opioid into our program, and they stay a little longer than the 60 days because recovery takes a little bit longer than 60 days. Mm-hmm. Well, Samantha came in, and she was beaten, and she was about 4 months pregnant. I mean, beaten down, not physically beaten. Today, fast forward to today, she's doing great. She has 3 months clean. Her baby is healthy. During this process, she found out that her and her baby dad were HIV positive. It was wonderful that she was in our program when she got this information because we were able to help her deal with it. Her baby's dad is an amputee who just came home from jail about 2 months ago. He is also in treatment and getting services for himself. Her mom gave me a call and told me, thank you for giving me my daughter back. I've been trying to get her to do this for 6 years, and she's finally got it together. So with the blessing of her mom, he asked for her hand in marriage.
Oh, yay.
And today she asked me, she said, Miss Sheila, can I have $28 to go get a marriage license? We got to wait 30 days before we get married. I happily gave her $28 so she can go get her marriage license. And that is the business that Homefront is in, the business of saving families and getting families back on track.
Absolutely wonderful. Sheila Addison, the director of the Homefront Family Preservation Center in the Family Preservation Campus, doing wonderful, wonderful work. We're going to take a break for 1 minute, and I'll be back with some final thoughts. Don't go away. And I am back. We went way, way, way over time, and we just had to, because when you have a guest that's as good as Sheila Addison is, you can't just stop that flow in the middle, can you? That was wonderful. So I'm going to hold a story off for next week, which is just a killer story, and I don't want to rush it. The headline of the story is Wisconsin study finds foster care better. Are you listening to this? Foster care better than reunification in education outcomes. It absolutely destroys what we've always thought to be true. And there's an interesting twist to the ending of it. So I'm going to tease you with that and hold off on that till next week. And so the final thing that I want to talk about tonight has to do with what success looks like. We certainly know what a conventional definition of success is when we see it. A child grows up in adverse, unstable environments and somehow manages to pick himself up by his bootstraps, as the old saying goes, and becomes a lawyer or doctor or captain of industry, and something that we can clearly define as success, and there it is, mission accomplished. In fact, one of our volunteers actually sent me a Wikipedia the other day about a gentleman by the name of Carlin Isles. My guess is that none of you have ever heard of him unless you are staunch rugby fans. But Carlin Isles was a foster kid who, with his twin sister, was fortunate enough to be adopted into a home where his skills could be cultivated, and guess what? He became an All-American athlete. In fact, he is actually known as the world's fastest rugby player. He plays for the national team. I sent him a Facebook private message to see if he would come on the show and talk about his life as a foster kid. And we'll see what he says. But that's not the point. The point is we can look at this gentleman, an all-American athlete, and say, yes, that's what success looks like. We've done our job. And truly they did in that situation. You had a foster child who was adopted, got permanency, and thrived in that. But what about the other people? What about the average folks? Maybe slightly above average, maybe slightly below. What happens to them? How do we define success when it comes to kids who are just average? And take it a step further. Take it all the way to the negative. What about the youth who end up homeless or in jail or dead? I mean, that's the outcome that we are trying so diligently to avoid. Well, I'll get back to them in a minute, but on the way, I just want you to consider the success of simply breaking an intergenerational chain. I believe that there is tremendous success in taking, for example, a young lady who was raped possibly repeatedly by a family member or mother's boyfriend, and who because of that is so much more prone to accepting domestic violence and abuse as a way of life. And so think about that young lady and helping her reestablish or find her self-esteem and simply not change that one part of her life, not accept domestic violence toward her or her children, and break that intergenerational chain. She may not have the charmed life that you and I fantasize about, but her children will not grow up in an element of domestic violence where it's modeled as an acceptable behavior pattern. Baby steps. That's what I'm saying. Baby steps, but important steps as part of a larger profit. High schools get so much of their funding from how many kids they say they sent to college. But, why send someone to college who shouldn't be there when all they would do is fail anyway? You could send them to vocational, generate self-esteem and maybe financial security with vocational training. The way we define success is based on our standard for success. Because we're older and wiser and we know so much more. And to a degree that makes sense, but it fails to include the youth in the equation, and that's what concerns me. So what about that child who ends up on drugs or in jail or worse? I can tell you this for a fact. When you're a mentor to a child and that's their outcome, they may be sitting in a jail cell somewhere, and when their thoughts wander, they will think that you were the one person who brought sunshine into their lives. You will get through. You will have an effect They might not become all-American athletes, and they might end up with a negative outcome in their lives. But you are the person who will bring them, some measure of peace, some measure of tranquility. If they go to court, you'll be the person who's there. And if it not for you, no one else would be there. And that means so very, very much in a person's life. So if you become a mentor because of something that you need, because your self-esteem needs a boost, because you need to feel that some young person looks up to you, that's the wrong reason. The reason you're doing it is to bring a little sunshine into a person's life. And if you get a better outcome after that, then it's all gravy. There it is, ladies and gentlemen, another hour talking about the issues, talking about youth, all of which should be more of a factor in our political and economic discourse. We thank Sheila Addison for being with us. We thank the people at Hamilton Radio for giving us the airtime. We thank Kurt Seldenbridge for providing the theme music you're listening to right now. Join me next Thursday, August 2nd. My guest will be Irene Gray, founder of Aunt Bertha. So until then, let's make this week the best week ever. Good night.